My name is Michelle Barton, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm a graduate student in the Department of Biology at Cal State Long Beach. So I'm studying the nesting preferences of the endangered light-footed Ridgway rail. It's a small, kind of chicken-like bird that's only in Southern California from Santa Barbara south to northern Baja, California. So it has a very limited range, and it only lives in wetlands along the coast. And so I'm trying to figure out what kind of habitat it uses for nesting so that that can be protected by managers, and hopefully the species will persist for many years to come. It's state and federally endangered. There aren't very many left, but I've been studying 2 different geographic sites, and those 2 sites combined have a majority of the rails. So Upper Newport Bay and the Tijuana Estuary are the 2 largest subpopulations in California. The species has been listed for, about 40 plus years at this point as endangered. And ever since it was listed, we have seen some good trends in terms of the population stabilizing. There have been many efforts throughout the bird's natural range to augment populations. So things like captive rail breeding have been done, and egg translocations to try to augment these really small populations up and down the California coast where inbreeding becomes an issue. So that's happened. There was a rather large population decline in the 2007-2008 range. There's a crash, and since then we have seen kind of a positive rebuilding of these populations. I've been working on this project for about 2.5 years, and I've done work in the field, in the lab, and on the computer doing things like ArcGIS and various aspects of spatial analysis. And to date, we've found some very interesting things. My results are still being finalized and written up, but we've learned that this bird is selecting for certain canopy architecture. So it was known that the bird liked to nest in tall Spartina foliosa, which is one species of tall grass in Southern California wetlands. But what we found is, at least in Upper Newport Bay, they're using other tall species. So it seems that height and not species is more important for nesting locations. So that's kind of part of the recipe for a nesting site that managers can use moving forward as they plan restorations and come up with conservation schemes. I don't need to see the birds to do my work. What I do is I go out into the field and I try to find nests. So we have some ideas of where these nests are located, so we can enter the marsh, we pull on our boots, we get a little muddy, and we go around and we look for nests very carefully, obviously, and all of this is permitted. But we look for nests, and once we find them, then we'll take measurements and data and collect samples. So we do that and then analyze all of that data on the computer or in the lab. So I don't actually need to see the bird. I've seen quite a few, but it is a pretty secretive, pretty cryptic marsh bird. It's a lot easier to see the babies because they look pretty different than the adults. They have black feathers and kind of black skin, and so they stand out in the marsh. But the adults are ruddy, and they have a lot of variation in their feather coloring, and so they are really hard to see. You can often see their orange beaks, which stand out pretty well against all the vegetation and the mud, but otherwise you really have to be trained to see them because they're so cryptic.